That is available. Could you raise your hand just so everyone can have a seat as much as possible?
I need to know that Miriam, I'm hearing me so much is starting. Yep.
I have no idea about that.
And that's the version. But something you could tell. Rebecca.
Oh, I know. Someone can have my seat there. I'll just stand on the side.
Why don't we just sit up there? Yeah, I'll just sit there. You guys sit. Yeah, I'll sit here because I'm on the chart. Yeah.
Our speakers want to come sit up right here. That'll open up a few more seats. Now we have a few more seats open in the front.
For you.
This is a monumental day. I want to welcome every single person here, and I'd like to start with a moment of silence for all victims of violence.
You don't get to claim that. That's not your, those aren't your people to board.
So just
right?
a moment. So I'm going to make an announcement.
This is Maya.
I'm a public safety expert,
This
and
is a people's filibuster. This is bullshit. You are not in favor of safety.
right. So we're going to
We the people of Washington State will not tolerate our public resources being used to encourage harassment, discrimination, and violence. Right now, get off this stage.
We are here for peace, and if you can and be part of dialogue,
Your
otherwise we
positions
will have
lead to violence.
That's
right.
right.
102 deaths.
So
102 injured.
you could
49 dead. This is the result of your hatred.
Do you want a platform? Do you want a
It's
platform?
not
Okay,
civil.
have one.
Okay,
This is
so
not
no
civil,
but.
and we will ask law
Well,
enforcement
you
to
can have your
ask you
say,
to
but you've
leave.
got to allow us to
Because
have our
what
say.
is
That's called civil
presentation
discourse.
Is
We
not
haven't even
civil.
begun.
Calling for discrimination, calling for violence, calling for harassment and intimidation is discivil.
Yeah, we're fine. Please. And anyone else who is not willing to engage in a civil discussion, to listen, we will ask you to leave. You are more than welcome to hold your opinion, and you are more than welcome to leave.
Keep it going, shut this down!
If you want to engage in a civil dialogue, we welcome you to do that. There will be opportunities
Textbook male aggression.
to fill out questions. Moderators will have an opportunity to answer them. But the purpose of this conversation today is not to be trans people, to be anti-trans. It is to raise questions about the safety in bathrooms for women and girls too. This is not either or, this is and both. And so if you're interested in engaging in that dialogue, we welcome you to stay with us. If you heckle, if you are disrespectful, if you are not civil, we will ask you to leave. Simple. It's an aggressive form when someone starts yelling and screaming at the top of their lungs. Any of us will feel threatened by that. And so we certainly value free speech, but in this space today, we want to create a safe space to have a very important conversation. And so we ask all of you to be civil in that. If you are unwilling to do that, please leave.
What about civil disobedience?
That's a quiet thing in this.
What level of decibels?
In this
What level of decibels is quiet?
in this space,
I'm not gonna let them monopolize
it is
this
to
thing. Shut it down.
to participate civilly or to leave.
This is a public space.
Okay, so do you all want to participate, or would you like to raise your hand and leave now?
With all due respect,
Okay.
harm is
So-
more than.
No, it's not respectful.
We are going to start with the
But
moment
we're
of
done.
silence, and anyone who does not want to participate in that moment of silence can leave. But be respectful for all victims of violence, especially the victims in Orlando and their families.
Silence is not enough.
So, please be respectful for a moment of silence. Okay. What's happening here is the first time that there has been dialogue. And we do not all agree with each other. We do not all agree, and we do not have to all agree with each other. But we are here to listen to each other. And we are here to try and have peace and figure out how to go forward. Every single person deserves safety.
Including trans people.
Including trans people. Can you say that again? I'm going to ask you to say that again. Including trans people. Every single person deserves safety, deserves bodily privacy, and deserves
Why do you want to take away from
dignity,
these women as well?
including trans people.
Women are women.
Trans
Excuse
women
me?
are women.
Trans women are women. Trans women are women.
Trans women are women.
Trans women are women.
So we have some amazing voices here who have been silent.
We just
I
have safety
actually
from your
need you,
criminalization.
I need order in order to proceed. We need to be able to listen to each other.
When you guys laugh when we say trans women are women, you're just showing your bigots.
So,
We're laughing,
Full
we're laughing at the inability to engage in a civil conversation, because if you care about the safety of all women, then you would engage in a dialogue about how we create safe spaces for trans people and NATO people. That is what we want to discuss. Do you want to engage in that, or is it either or?
100 trans women were murdered this year because of the hate that you promote.
I don't know what you're speaking about.
1,600 women were murdered last year by male violence. 1,600 women. The issue is not trans people. The issue is safety. How do we protect their privacy, your privacy, my privacy, children's privacy? You cry all around here. Where are your voices about the 1,600 women who were murdered last
okay,
year?
so what I'm going to do right now, we are going to move forward right now, and we are going to have Kaylee Triller-Hopper come up here, and she is going to introduce these voices that go beyond borders, and this is an issue that goes beyond every border. Safety is a civil liberty which every single person deserves and has a right to, and we're going to try and, no one has all the answers,
The law protects my
but we have to go forward without violating each other. And so we're going to talk about that today. Kaylee, can you please come up?
Why haven't you deleted the comments on
If you are going to say that hate will not win in our state,
then I would strongly suggest
Would you
that
please
you do
remove
not
her?
call people names like
Please remove her.
disgusting. I am not going to address that right now. We will talk about that. But if you are going to say that you believe in equality and diversity, that means that you are going to have to get used to the idea that people might think differently than you. And if they do, you can listen. Because if you want us to listen to you, then you will listen to us. Because you know what? So if Kate's not going to win, then you're going to need to listen up. Because this is a real issue for a lot of women across the country.
Zero incidents.
You're a lying bigot.
Go on Google and do research.
For the first 10 years of my life,
Exactly right.
I was sexually abused. And my abuser liked to stand there and watch me in the shower and laugh.
I was sexually assaulted too. Stop scapegoating trans women.
1 in 4 children are sexually abused, generally by people in their own family.
Generally by men.
Why is chairman asking sexually abused?
Women by a trans person, no.
And when I did not give in to my abuser's demands,
Violence on trans women.
he would cry crocodile tears and say, "You don't love me anymore." And what you are doing with this rhetoric is the same message that many girls and women have received their entire lives. If you do not give me what I want, you are hateful. If you do not give me the need of kowtow to my demands and compromise your own personal boundaries, then you are hateful.
No. When you discriminate against specific group of people,
No.
that is hateful.
As somebody who did not have a choice about who saw me in the shower,
It was a man, not a woman.
it was a man. And guess what? Those same men that you're trying to avoid can now follow you into the bathroom.
That's not true.
68% of sexual abuse survivors will never speak about it. 2 out of every 100 rapists will spend a single day in jail. Women have been taught to speak up and to name their own boundaries and to be unapologetic. And if we are going to say that we believe in my body, my choice, then I sure as hell should have a choice about who gets to see it when I shower. It is imperative to me that the first time my daughter sees a naked male form is because she has chosen it, not because somebody else has bullied their way into her locker room without giving her a chance. When I was diagnosed with PTSD, I rejected the diagnosis because I did not think that I had a right to claim it. I thought that maybe I had to go to war and be a combat veteran. Well, guess what? Guess what? I do not have to allow a male with a naked body into my personal space in order to be loved. I think you guys have just given everybody here a really clear picture about what discrimination actually looks like.
Using the same rhetoric used against ethnic segregation.
Because if you are in a war, and you are a combat veteran, we do not shove those veterans right into a fireworks show and say, get over it. Women like me who have been traumatized by adult naked males.
Stop scapegoating trans women!
How about the hundreds of trans women who feel violence every year?
We're not even a fraction of the population in 100 murders. Because of
Of the 20 million Americans who have already experienced attempted or completed rape, 17 million of them are
Nice.
That's the problem.
How many of those
This rhetoric is hateful.
do you have that number?
On that, Women have been bulldozed enough, and I will not be bulldozed by you, and nor will these women. And they have earned the right to speak.
In order to go forward,
No shame, but
here,
logic
in
is
order to go forward,
You're going to go back to the grave.
And this is the message that women have been given their entire life.
You're right.
Take what you want by force and get used to it. Well, we're not getting used to it.
Trans people.
You don't have to
So you will be getting used to us.
You
You will be getting used to us speaking out about
We
it.
don't ask for power, we ask for the right to exist.
Or you and Jackie got
Like to
shot by
exist.
police. You didn't ask for
You
your
want to
So,
tell
on that
trans
note,
people
I will
that
be
we're
announcing-
violating your right to exist?
Jackie got shot by police.
What happened to free speech?
So did I.
Where are you?
Don't we
You
all
have a
say
right to
we
speak,
speak
and we have a right to
Passionate.
Where's the microphone?
How is it loving to insist that little girls open up their showers at the gym to people
Why
who
would
have
you make
penises?
trans girls? How is it not forcing terrible thoughts on the rest
I don't know. It sounds to me like
You
nothing
have
in
any
this
proof
room is
that
actually
it's
right in
actually
this
happening? Or are you pulling this out of your ass?
So, why do trans women have to go to med?
Jeez, what impeccable rhetoric.
I am so ready now for Maya to speak up here because she is a strong woman who has been a champion of civil rights.
Where were you when Jackie got
I
shot by
am
cops?
just really fascinated by the inability of people who want to find solutions to engage in civil dialogue in the process. And I think there's completely a place for civil disobedience.
Biggest don't
But-
deserve civility.
Yes.
everyone
But
deserves
everybody
civility.
deserves civility.
Everyone.
Everyone deserves
Your idea of
civility.
civility is hate.
The KKK is supporting I-1515. The KKK.
Oh, Jessica.
Do you support the KKK, Maya?
All of this is incredibly
Your campaign encourages
I love
intimidation
it.
and harassment.
I've never shied away from a good battle, so let's jump right in. Right on.
Okay.
So it's an interesting scenario when a sexual assault survivor is labeled a bigot because she wants personal safety. And it's discriminatory when trans women think that their rights supersede everybody else's. And here is what people have been saying is, what about safety for everybody? Are you all interested in having a conversation about safety for everybody? Because this isn't even about trans people, right? This is about
Trans
when
women
we
are
are in
women!
bathrooms, how do we create
Trans women are
for
women!
NATO women, for trans people, for men?
I am a NATO woman and a trans woman.
And so the interesting thing is there are lots of proposals around the country to deal with that, okay? But there are interesting underlying things that relate to gender-specific laws that we haven't even begun to scratch the surface on.
The
And
laws
it's
on the
interesting
books
when
currently
women
cover
come
all
to the table and
predatory
say,
acts,
we are interested in
including
finding
voyeurism.
solutions that work for trans women and NATO women, and trans women, as demonstrated with their allies here, beat up on NATO women. How does that work in a power dynamic?
Because
How does
bigots
that
don't
work
deserve
in a
civility.
power
They're on the same
dynamic?
side as the
Because what we are
KKK.
only asking is civility. Now, the ACLU is on the side of the KKK. I ran the ACLU. And the reality is this, our Constitution affords to each of us, I don't care what you think, the right to
I don't
free
care what you
speech,
think.
and the government may not interfere with it.
But it doesn't
And
matter
that
because
is
everybody else
principle
is
that
doing it.
in this instance, what is also true is this. We have
Already
gender-specific laws that protect women because it recognizes the biological difference between men and women. And the question
That's
about
biological
bathroom
sexism.
safety is not only about trans
That's
safety,
antediluvian.
it's about men,
How would this
But
be
you're lying.
and children.
It's
And
all
so,
sexism.
instead of
bodies
railroading
to
laws
our
that
safety.
don't properly look at how we protect the rights of all people, many folks have said, why aren't we engaging in a civil discourse to at least unearth the multitude of safety issues that confront people that use the bathroom? Because if what I'm hearing from trans allies and advocates is that the safety of trans people is paramount to the safety of everybody else, that's discriminatory.
No, that's not.
And if you want to talk about violence, happy to do that, right? There are high rates of violence against trans people.
Thank you.
There are high rates of violence against women and girls perpetrated by males. And if what you want to say is that trans people are worse off than NATO women, that doesn't seem to be sisterly. It doesn't seem to advance this notion. No, it's not true. Because, let me say this, just so that you're really clear, because everybody in here seems to be a statistician, and last I checked, unless somebody raises their hand and tells me I'm a statistician, I'm right here. That was the issue. So let me tell you, when I hear statements like there's never been any instance of anything, that's not accurate. Produce a report to me that shows that someone sat and went through every police crime report in every police jurisdiction to come up with a talking point that says nobody's ever. Anytime you use always, never, those are absolutism terms, and even in statistics, it's a 5% degree of error. So nothing about any of these stats are accurate, and statistics is an art, it's not a science. So don't start spouting stats and trying to create a situation where what you're trying to articulate is that trans women are more victimized than other women. Because that is not. It certainly has been asserted in this room. It has certainly been asserted in the room, right? Oh, no. But that's not even the point. The point is still this, that what you want to do is begin to start parsing out the stats that trans women are more at risk than traditional women. And the reality is, if we're all women, we are all vulnerable. And so how do we protect all of us? What protection?
The Human Rights Commission has operated on for 10 years.
And so the question becomes, what about the rights of the other women too?
They still exist. They're still completely different. No one is allowed to sell them. No one is allowed to sell them.
That's the point.
They're right on the book. You go and you can still do it out there just like
question, and I have to just say, I'm not familiar with your local human rights. And so I can't speak to that. What I'm talking about is what we have been talking about are broader implications of the Constitution. What I'm saying to you is, there are bathroom bills circulating all across the country.
And they're terrible.
And they're there. And they're all wrong. And the question is, how do we, and I'm not saying that they're right.
Answer his question.
I have
What
said
incident?
there's
What incident?
What do you mean one incident? What incident
When
are
a
you
trans
talking about?
person violated a woman in the bathroom.
What incident? Because they're not. Let me just say, I'm not going to argue with you about statistics. What I'm saying to you,
making false claims.
not at all. Not at all. What I'm saying to you is that there is violence against trans women and there is violence against NATO women. And the question is, how do we create safety?
Why are you making a division between natal and non-natal? What is that all about?
Because the way that the
Because their body makes it a
constructed, they allow
genital development is so complicated.
and we can get down to that in a moment, but that's not what we're talking about here. That's not what we're talking about. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is how to create bathroom safety.
You're focusing on.
Do you want to talk about bathroom safety?
If they're trans or cis.
But that's the question that America would like to know. How does it happen? What's the criteria? Everybody wants to know. Answer the question. How did you know? How do you not
That's
know?
the point. That's why you don't introduce discriminatory legislation.
And no one's interested in discriminatory legislation.
That's
Right? I'm interested in having a conversation, a civil conversation about bathroom safety. This is about bathroom safety. Are you all suggesting that male women and girls are not at risk in bathrooms? Is that
We
what
rent
you
the
are?
space,
Yes.
so we can decide who's doing this. It's our private event. So,
It is not, because are you saying that women, are you saying that NATO women are not at risk in bathrooms too?
And so are we.
Was that evidence that they're at risk for trans
For
people?
everybody.
Yeah, and trans
The risk
women
is
are
for
victims
everybody.
of regular male violence.
And so are women, and so are women, and so we're saying,
protected.
so what
People
we're
who are
saying,
identified
nobody
as
said they
women.
should not be protected, what they
Yeah,
said
if
is,
they're
how do we
identified as
protect
women,
everybody?
we're not trying
Are
to go
you
in there.
listening or not?
I
You
am.
got this all on.
I
It sounds really good, it sounds really good, but it doesn't sound like it.
I have a point. That's why I'm not going to respond.
But you don't have a point, because the point is that women are both, women are all vulnerable. So how do we create, how do we create safety?
We create safety by allowing people to go to the bathroom. Why are you so worried about
Let me
it?
ask this question. So, your interest is ensuring that trans people have
No, my
access to
interest is
bathrooms.
ensuring that there is a discriminatory legislation.
Awesome, and I think that that's great, we are too. And so then what I'm saying is, from a safety standpoint, if you're interested in the safety of trans women and NATO women and girls, then tell me this. So if you have a overbroad piece of legislation that says anybody, no criteria, can go into a ladies' restroom, how does that create safety?
it does say that. Have you read it?
Have you read it? Because it does not provide any criteria, so you didn't know your point, but you got all the answers, so then I'm saying, so the law allows for anybody to go into a restroom. So it's not about trans people, and it's not about implying, no, you all made it, because what we want to talk about is bathroom safety for everybody. But if you came and listening, you would have known that.
I am listening. Okay.
But you would have known that. But it's great, you got your good talking points. Anybody else?
Yours are
Not at all, because you're white.
I'm not. I can get I can go.
But not with any substance. We're not with any substance, love. What's your name? Would you like to go back?
You left the group of working for actual civil liberties to work for this bullshit?
Oh, no, what I did was I stimulated a national dialogue about the rights of women and girls. That's what I did. That's what I did. Go check the record.
I'm from the fucking hilltop.
Yeah, I don't know about hilltop. I know about town business. I know about town business.
You don't know about the hilltop,
You
but it's
know
not
about
just
it.
me.
But what I'll say is this. We came here for a civil conversation. And we love to engage.
Okay, so why you calling me moving, man?
Since we got here, or you're not heckling from the top?
I wasn't heckling.
Yeah,
I was talking loud.
I
I asked if you supported the KKK. That's all I asked.
You just physically threatened her. How is that
You're
safe?
not physically threatening her.
I did not physically threaten her. I said,
So, are we all here?
Wonder why we don't want your back.
you and I can also have a
Lord Almighty.
Remark, and then you smile about it.
Yeah, he was actually on your side. Yeah, he was on your side. That's really cute.
I can't hear him. I'm sorry.
Real cute. We're gonna have one question from.
I'm keeping a sister. I'm sorry.
If people in Tina is saying that anyone can use any restroom, is that what you're saying?
I'm gonna let you speak. So just for the record,
I thought
what
that's
I
what
was
I just heard.
interested in talking about, and I'm glad that we got all the yelling and screaming out, so maybe we can have a civil conversation.
No, we're not saying. You have a microphone, so we're just trying to match your level. Step from the microphone and we can have a quieter
I
conversation.
just told them to stop.
Okay, then we're going to keep matching your level.
That's all you can do. But the point is this, is that the points that I'm making are merely about representing the rights and interests of women and girls too. This is not either or. It's not.
Women and girls are already protected
Oh,
by
you didn't read the newsletter? I'm out of a job, so I'm actually doing this because it really matters. I'm not doing it. I'm doing it because I'm a woman. I'm doing it because I'm a Because I'm doing this from a place of concern for all of us. All of us. So this, what I was hoping to talk about before it was all heckle was about the safety of all people. So, now that I'm done,
Who's your employer? And you can
I know that you have a question about 1550, and I think Angela should discuss that better.
points that you're not addressing.
Excuse me.
Thank you, Maya.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
What is 15
I like her.
saying? Is that you can't use any restroom? Is that what you're saying?
Did everyone hear that question?
No.
Okay, yeah.
Does 1515 say that anyone can use any restroom? Because I believe that's what I just heard from you. Is
No,
that
that's what the
correct?
current law says.
Let me clarify.
What you would have heard is different viewpoints on the issue of bathroom safety from 4 different people. Not all of us are here to talk about 1550. I'm certainly not here to talk about 1550. I'm certainly here to talk about the safety of the bathrooms for women and girls too, as well as trans people. And so what you didn't get to hear, just let me see if you want to hear or not hear. Because she asked a question, and if you all can be respectful, I can answer her. And so the goal was to raise these multitude of issues because there's not been an opportunity for us to have an exchange that is civil. To hear from trans folks about what the bathroom safety are.
Did you sign the 1550
that
initiative?
there are bathroom safety issues for women and girls too.
Did you
And how
sign
do we come up with
1550?
some reasonable accommodation that creates bathroom safety for everybody? And so you have a question specific to 1550. Angela's gonna answer that, okay?
Yes, okay. I'm just going to be very brief because we actually, the idea, the logistics is that we do have question and answers. And hopefully we will get to them. If we can actually get through these speakers, but I will answer that very briefly. 1515 specifically says for schools. And I would encourage every single one of you to read 1515 because it has been totally mislabeled. So, and 1515 says that there is required to be accommodations for everyone. There has to be safe spaces for everyone. That means that a high school girl can go into the shower and not be afraid or worried or surprised by a male body coming in and watching
You
her.
mean a trans woman who's
So what I'm gonna keep speaking here because I don't think I've effectively answered this question.
Can you remove them so she can at least get through
Every
her
single
statement?
person
Yeah, get him out of here, like
needs
Trump said. Right? Just get him out of here.
accommodation.
Get him out of here.
So I want
you're
to
the
quickly
rest of
answer
the Trumps.
this. We are not going to be able to have question and answers
No, we're not.
if we're going to run out of our time.
Have thoughts.
It means that there will
Shut up and
be
listen.
girls' locker rooms.
The right that you talk
There
about.
will be accommodations for boys' locker rooms, and there will be accommodations for anyone else who doesn't feel comfortable in those biological bathrooms and locker rooms. Every single person is required by 1515 in the schools that there is accommodation and safety and bodily privacy for everyone. Now, I think that we need to be able, and not like this, that honestly I'm so happy about today. Because it has not happened before. And it's going to be hard as hell to go through this because there's so many emotions. But we have to sit down and be at the table together and share our feelings and our hearts and our passions and our fears and our need for safety for everybody. So this, I just want to say, again, thank you, every single one. Thank you for being here today. Because every single voice is important. But 1515 is the only path forward that allows and demands safety and bodily privacy and dignity for every single student.
So let's
And
have
this
a
motion-
instead of
We're now going to introduce an amazing human being. And so I know some of you have read the bios. These are iconic human beings with us today. Miriam Ben Shalom is here with us today. Miriam is an icon in the LGBTQ community nationally.
Hey, why don't I know her?
So let's be respectful to everyone. Let's be respectful to everyone, please. Miriam is going to come up here and she's going to share her wisdom with you. Thank you.
A couple things you need to know about me. All right? Number one, I'm not transphobic. Number two, I'm not afraid of trans people.
Why would you be?
I frankly don't care who pees next to me. All right?
Good.
Just to let you know.
That's good.
All right? However, having said that, I have a number of concerns as a woman born a woman. Okay, you may not like that term, but my mother gave birth to me. What about TERF?
Oh, get him out.
I'm not TERF. I am, however, a PERF. Woo!
Ha.
I'm penis exclusionary. When it comes to my private space.
Sounds like an unclear way to say TERF.
Well, you need to get a hearing aid, son. Okay, what bothers me today, and notice I am standing out without benefit of a thing, so you want to raise your voices to me, you're going to have to deal with me, because I'm not hiding behind a thing. I don't have a phallus-shaped object, to speak into. Oh, yeah. You don't like it? Too bad. Here I am. What are you going to do? What bothers me today is that there is an unacknowledged war on women.
Thank you.
Notice I said women. Okay? What bothers me today is that there is a certain type of rhetoric coming out from certain people, not all, certain people, because I know logic and I don't make unwarranted generalities and I don't engage in argumentum ad hominem, okay? That bothers me. I don't know. I've been out since 1974. I took on the largest complex in this country all by myself with one attorney, the military-industrial complex. Okay, what bothers me is that I am seeing civil rights and protections being steadily eroded. Okay, I listen to the rhetoric that comes out. I don't know of a single woman in all of my years that I've been out that has ever threatened another woman because of a difference in opinion. I don't know of a single woman in all the years that I've been out that would call another woman the type of language and vileness that I would never have used as a salty drill sergeant.
I was raped by another woman.
I'm sorry.
Such horrible.
It's not my responsibility, but I have compassion.
I'm speaking truth.
Okay, but I don't know. I'm speaking out. Maybe your truth is different than mine. I'm saying I don't know. I'm making an I statement and I'm owning what I say.
I'm telling you.
Well, you're telling me. All right, good. Okay, I don't know of a single woman in my whole life that would threaten to rape another woman.
Well, excuse me.
But I'm speaking for myself.
You got totally your experience.
No, I'm speaking right
I'm a
now.
fucking rape survivor too. Don't you negate me.
But don't negate me.
She's not. She's just adding context.
You're negating me. Here are the things that I see that are being negated. Okay, I see a steady removal of the legal right of women to organize politically against sex-based oppression by
Now you
males.
know, Kaylee, you're not the only one in this.
Removing the legal right
That's
of
the
women
problem.
to
There's too many
assemble
of us.
outside the presence of men. Okay, notice I say men and I say women. I'm not qualifying. I mean, if you say trans women or women, then when I say the word women, that includes
It was
trans
a
women.
nasal woman in your own word.
Removing the legal right of women to educational programs created for women outside the presence of men. I see this kind of debate going on here is eliminating the data collection of sex-based inequalities in areas where females are underrepresented. I see the elimination of sex-based crime statistics. I see the elimination of athletic programs and sports competitions for women and girls. I see the removal of the legal right of women to be free from the presence of men in areas of public accommodations where nudity occurs. Maybe you will work, but when I was in the Army, I had to deal with swinging dicks, and it wasn't fun. okay? The elimination of grants, scholarships, board, and trustee designations, representative positions, and affirmative programs for women. I see removing the legal right of women to create reproductive clinics, rape crisis services, support groups, and any other organizations for females. Okay? What does this mean? If you're a veteran and you were in combat and you have PTSD, pretty much the military nowadays, it wasn't always like this, doesn't send you back into combat. Okay.
Yes, they do. Nowadays they do.
Okay, but I'm prior military, okay, so you can't, are you prior military? What branch of service?
I was Air Force.
Hoorah! Thank you for your service, sister.
Thank you for your service.
It's changing. It used to be a lot worse. You know, think of General Patton. So why is it that we don't want to protect women and children, especially women and children who have been traumatized? You want to send them back into combat? I see you, and I'll answer, and I'll take your question. Okay. I see the elimination of media and all types of public discourse specific to females. I see the removal of the right of journalists to report the sex and history of subjects. I see the elimination of lesbian-specific organizations and advocacy groups. Okay, I see the removal of the legal right of women to free speech related to sex roles and gender. I see the elimination of the legal right of women to protection from state-enforced sex roles in terms of appearance, behavior, and thought. I mean, I'm a very non-conforming, non-binary woman, okay? But I'm not transgender, just to let you know. Okay, and I catch the same amount of shit than any other woman gets. Oh, you know?
Catch that from you guys.
I've been told to get out when I wasn't wearing earrings because if you notice I got pretty short hair here, you know, and I've been called sir.
But you stood for your right to stay in that same bathroom, right? Was that something you knew that you had?
I don't take crap from anybody. Nobody tells me what my plans are. I don't need anybody's tolerance. I don't depend on anybody's permission to exist as who and what I am. I don't depend on anybody's right to give me tolerance. I don't want tolerance. You take tolerance and shove it.
All right.
I don't demand the right for tolerance. I demand the right to live as myself. And if anybody doesn't like it, too fucking bad. All right, I see the elimination of the legal right of girls to protection from state-enforced sex roles in public education. I see the elimination of the patent right of dependent females to hospitals and facilities and bed assignments in these facilities, separate from males. I see the elimination of the right of dependent females to prefer female providers for their intimate personal requirements. I see the elimination of the human right of female prisoners under state confinement to be housed separately from male prisoners. Unlike any other social justice venture in history, I think some people wanting transgender rights are unique in that they are based completely on the elimination of the human rights of women.
Yes.
But how can such a relatively small group eliminate the legal human rights of half of the human race?
Just because we're the minority, we're
Okay,
going
no,
to ignore it?
because the transgender politics is anti-female politics, and as such receives blanket support from all male sectors who profit from the elimination of human rights for females. The state, the conservative politic, the liberal politic, the gay politic, the queer politic, academia, business, and media, all of these people benefit, and the only ones that aren't getting any benefit at all are women and children. That's what this argument is about. It is not whether we want transgender people. I don't care. I don't care.
They care.
This is about the safety of human beings.
Yes, we're human beings.
I don't see any. Okay, I want to say something really blunt here. I want you to think about what I'm about to say.
What do you think about cops killing women?
Oh, jeez. Oh, for the love of mercy. Well, I thought one more outbreak in the
The cops will enforce who goes into the bathroom, though.
Really?
Yeah, if it's a law, and they're going to kill black and brown people. That's what they're going to kill. They're going to kill non-binary black and brown people going to the bathroom.
Well, I'm not binary and I'm a Jew.
You're a woman. Okay. You are a woman.
I'm non-binary and I'm a Jew. What are you going to do with me? Listen, you called her a supporter of the KKK.
No, we asked her.
In Clearwater, Tampa, at their very first Gay Pride event, the Ku Klux Klan showed up. And the LGBT people who were there and the Ls that were there as well all went, oh my God, it's the KKK. It took one Jewish drill sergeant to walk out and stand there and say, you don't like gay people? You don't like Jews? Here I am. What are you going to do with me? And there was absolute silence. This isn't about the KKK. This is about human safety. This is about ensuring that people are safe wherever they go. Transgender people are not the issue here. What bothers me and what I'm sure.
This is not your podcast.
Well, actually, it is. I'm standing here.
But you're a man. So, whatever.
He can't speak because he's a man?
No, it's not his purview right here, right now. Not his purview. We're talking about the safety of women and children. It isn't trans people that we're worried about. So you're worried about
You just make up other women.
Safety of women and children?
We're worried about all the
Men's violence against women.
That's the problem. It's men's violence. That's exactly what the problem is. We shouldn't be here arguing about transgender people. We should be here arguing about we should be arguing about changing society enough so that we change the patterns of violence coming from males in this country.
Starting with this initiative.
You know, that's just what I think. It isn't what I'm fearful of, and what I would do is
There's a national organization for marriage that's out there right now helping this campaign.
I know.
Anti-gay.
We can all cry a river. Every last one of us. Is there anybody here who can't cry a river? You know what you do with that river of tears? You build a fucking bridge across it. I'll build a bridge and I'll work with you. We may not agree on that, but we can find common ground. I can agree with you on everything.
I think so at this point, but we'll see. I mean,
I may not agree with you. Namaste. I may not agree with you, but we can find common ground in some stuff.
Who you steal that from?
So, my word.
That's appropriation.
What's your educational background, son?
Don't worry about that.
You know, my fear is those pretenders who will co-opt trans people, because right now in a lot of places, if you self-identify, you get to go in.
in Washington.
And that's my problem. That's the issue right there. Is the pretenders.
Self-determination.
Those men who would use. I'm not saying that. I'm saying my fear is the pretenders. The men who self-identify to get into these spaces.
Like the people who get
How many women Thank you. I appreciate you.
Period. But we do have two more speakers also.
But I keep hearing women and children. There's so much more. There's a lot of other things that really need to go into this, and I don't know if there's anyone, a trans woman that would like to stand up or big knowledge now, but if that trans woman were to go into a men's restroom, what kind of violence do you think would happen there?
Precisely, and that's the issue. Male violence.
I'm not saying
I said don't put words in my mouth, sister.
I didn't.
Don't call her sister.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not your sister.
Violence.
I am not your sister. Do not say anything over me.
I'm sorry, I feel a kinship with all of you.
And no one's asking you to.
We're not sisters, though.
I'm glad, but you know, I feel a kinship with all women. I'm here because I feel protective of women and children.
Well, you're leaving out trans women.
How does repealing a protection for transgender people protect transgender people, especially when you're going to segregate them in middle school, in the schools, where the bullying is paramount? How is repealing a protection going to help women?
No, it's not repealing protection, it's trying to provide accommodations so that people feel safe and feel comfortable. Look, when I was in the military, I dealt with swinging dicks. Frankly, I don't want to shower next to a swinging dick.
Then don't shower at home.
Oh, shower at home.
Oh, yeah,
That's regression.
That's really feminist now.
Very progressive.
I'm not comfortable with it. Why is
Shower at home.
Yeah,
Just 100 years ago.
any less important than anybody
I'm not comfortable with the whole process, so I go home.
Okay.
But excuse me, can I just ask, so if she has to shower at home, how's that any different than what trans
not that she
people
has to, she's making a choice to shower at home.
So the trans people.
She cannot shower, she is making a choice to shower somewhere else. So can I just say, I'm going to make a statement about how 1515 applies. 1515.
I give the floor to the next speaker.
Okay, let's do a big hand for Mary. Okay, Miriam's last statement was, we are all equal. We are all equal. We're all trying to figure out how, so I need you to not talk. Thank you. And actually, I think building a bridge, I want to re-echo that. You get over it. We need to build a bridge so that we're not going to agree. No one is expecting everyone to agree here. I'm not going to agree with you. You're not going to agree with me. But we have to be able to have dialogue. And hate's not going to win from anyone. Hate will never win. And it's love and listening and realizing that even though we disagree, we do belong to each other. So how do we go forward with that? And I'm just going to restate what 1515 is just letting people vote. So your vote counts.
Letting people vote?
Yeah. So I'm going to 1515, the initiative 1515
Can you read it?
is so that we have initiatives here. We will give anyone who wants a copy. I would expect you to read it and take it with you and read it. It is about accommodation for everyone. So we are going to move on. We have two more incredible speakers. We have two more incredible speakers who I think you'd want to hear from. I mean, open your hearts, open your minds to hearing what these two speakers have to say. Okay, our next speaker is Blair Tyndall. Blair Tyndall. So, not only is she a world-renowned oboist, but she also wrote her memoir. She is an author, and her memoirs are Mozart in the Jungle, and she's going to tell you a little bit more about that. Some of you may have seen that and have read that. She is here to talk to you about her story, her experience, and I ask you to be respectful.
Okay, so we're handing out some materials here. I think I'm here for a little comic relief, perhaps. I'm a performing artist. I'm 56 years old. I've been taking stinky poops next to transgender women since most of you are born. I am very used to having transgender women in the bathroom. Never been a problem for me. Well, here's what I things have gotten really out of hand with the whole discussion, I think, and people are swinging mud at people who are not saying what other people think they're saying or thinking. My nephew is transgender. He's born male, and he is identifying female. He has a beautiful head of hair.
What if that's not the pronouns that she uses?
He's still calling himself.
What the hell are you talking about?
He's still calling.
So you
He's
want
a
people to
teenager.
use the pronouns that
He's in
people want, but when
transition.
she says the pronoun, then you're yelling at her, telling her what the pronoun is? How's that work? And then you want folks that aren't educated to be mindful and not be offensive, but
It's
she's
mostly
using.
identifying
So
as
what's
gay.
the difference?
So anyway, I think a lot of people are not realizing, we're not saying, I mean, nobody here is saying that a transgender woman is not a woman. I didn't hear anybody say that. And I'm very concerned about transgender women's safety too. I want to tell you a story. I had a friend in college who was a man, and he's been very vocal. I'm going to call him Jonathan. He's now a woman. He went through the surgery very early on. It was unfortunately kind of botched, so he's been through a lot. And I asked him about his experiences with transgender bathrooms and locker rooms, and I have so much empathy for this cause. But the problem here, I think, is not, I don't think anybody has a problem here with the transgender issue in the bathroom. Sorry, I got stage right now. But my problem is that there have always been icky men who are going to prey on transgender women, and vice versa in the men's room too. And they prey on all kinds of women. But now, if it's legislated, you know, it's always been this way, but if there's legislation, we don't have an opportunity to say this person doesn't belong here, this is a man who's not transgender and is up to no good. We can't do anything. So we need to work this out. There are ways of constructing bathrooms where I think everybody's going to feel safe and happy, like European bathrooms. There's one in my neighborhood. I live on Venice Beach in California, floor to ceiling, you know, cubicles, and then everybody uses the sinks. If anybody's seen my TV show, Most Art in the Jungle, the bathroom we used there is one of those. So I think people need to really listen and not be so hateful to one another. And, you know, I've been in this world my whole life. And, you know, I really want everybody to be happy. So let's open up a discussion and stop throwing so much mud. You other people trying to ask a question?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so my question is, whenever I go, so this is going to be a law, right? Meaning it's going to be enforced by the police officers. So that means that whenever I go up to the bathroom, no, like laws are enforced by law enforcement and our cops, right? So let's say I go to the bathroom, and this right here we have separates a biological male from a biological female, and that's how you decide who's going to go in the restroom. So for me, privacy, I already have a stall. There's already a door on the stall. So in the bathroom, like, I'm good. But when I go into the bathroom, this requires that law enforcement enforces that I am a biological female, whatever the hell that means. Like, but there's no language, just like draw like what the vagina is supposed to look like intersex people look at. Okay, so I am going to have my privacy violated by default because I will have to have somebody else like validate the fact that I have a vagina, which I may or may not have. Right? So as far as privacy goes, you got this little man looking over the thing, that man's going to have a little badge, and that's going to be me, or it's going to be a black or brown person, and there's going to be all kinds of issues there.
Not
So
what the
please tell me
initiative
when it
says.
comes
Somebody
to
needs to
privacy,
clarify that.
somebody enforced by the law is going to have to check in between my legs and decide whether or not I am allowed into this restroom.
Can I?
I have actually wondered
I need
about
to address
that.
that.
I'm not qualified to answer this.
But I am.
Okay.
Because it doesn't sound to me like you've actually read the initiative.
No, it's right here. I can read
Okay,
it.
so let me
read it.
Okay, you don't need to be hostile. I'm going to try to address what you're saying. Our initiative does not force anybody anywhere. It does not include any criminal or civil penalties. We are trying to give businesses the right to determine their own policy because there is a Korean day spa, for instance, over in Lakewood, that the whole business model requires that women, biological women, walk around nude. Do you think that might be a problem if they're now forced to open their business, as they are now forced because of the law as it stands, to people who have penises?
If there's no enforcement, then why are you doing this?
What we're doing
Civil penalties
is trying to give businesses the right to determine their own policy.
That's the language.
Because that way the Korean Day Spa can do what they need to do. And if the YMCA wants to keep their open bathrooms, they can. But guess what? If 24-hour Fitness down the street doesn't want to, that means that that is someplace that I can choose as a patron. It gives people freedom. It does not mandate or force anybody into the wrong bathroom. It does not insist that a trans woman go into it. It does not push anybody anywhere. It gives people freedom to make choices. And if we're going to say that we agree with diversity and equality, then you need to give people freedom to make those choices and run their businesses and make their own decisions.
The bathroom cop will be in the schools, because that's where your initiative mandates.
No, that's where the initiative is already.
It does not mandate. It does not force anybody.
Maintain. How is that not mandated?
Because it gives them alternatives if they are not comfortable there. Nobody's going to be standing there checking. It's kind of like having speeding laws, right? You don't have police officers pulling over every single car to make sure they're going, but you know what? If somebody is going 90, it gives them something to fall back on. If there is a creeper in a locker room, having a law in place will give them something to fall back on. Because right now, as the law stands in Washington State, any male can walk into your locker room right next to you in the shower, and if you question him, he can sue you. I'm not okay with that. Now, I'm going to give the microphone back to Blair because she was speaking, and I don't think we're going to take any more questions during her speech, because she needs to be able to speak.
Protecting all predatory acts.
There are already insufficient laws.
I'm going to ask you in a minute, but let me just answer this question. This comes up all the time.
Don't give him that right, because he can't raise his hand.
You know what?
His hand for 20 minutes.
I know. I was going to say this anyway. Hang on one second. I was going to say this anyway. Yes, there are laws on the books protecting people from predatory acts. But the problem here that we have to figure out.
Did you misgendered me at all?
Oh my gosh.
The problem here that we have to figure out. However you identify, you do have a lovely head of hair.
But while complimenting me, are you going to acknowledge that you misgendered me?
How would you like to be addressed?
She or they.
She or they. Okay. She. Anyways, yes, there are these laws on the books. But the problem, when it becomes legislated, and as I said, I've been in the bathroom with everything you can imagine, and I've done everything you can imagine myself. I'm not qualified. I'm not from Washington.
Oh, no. Oh,
wait a minute.
No, I'm here for.
Let's ignore them.
They're all important.
Oh, yeah? I don't find it very funny.
Let's let Blair speak.
Can I actually say what's happening here?
Okay.
It's not about Tacoma.
Civil dialogue.
What's
So the-
happening here, I just want to,
You're trying to change Washington law. People are important.
You guys, do you realize that you are participating
I'm an American,
in
are
the
you?
first dialogue? And
here?
listen, you're doing something historic today. Because these speakers come from across the United States. You don't want to be here, you don't have to. Just a second. These are people. These are women.
I'm on all sides.
And I'm from here, and I don't want this law.
So, what we're doing is we are having, this issue is not just Tacoma. It is not just Washington State. It is not just the United States of America. There is a global community out there, and everyone wants to figure this out. So there is a global community watching.
That's sexual harassment.
It's watching this discussion.
That's sexual harassment.
Why are they still here?
Yeah, why are they still here?
Why are you blowing kisses at me? That's sexual harassment. You should not be allowed in any bathroom, my friend. Why don't we follow systems?
Okay.
Let's let her speak. She's been interrupted 3 times.
Yes.
Why don't we have better stalls?
Is it possible to have civil discussion in here?
It is a civil.
Not with the front row. Yeah, the front row needs to go.
What's your definition of civility?
We have a question.
Yeah, okay.
So, somebody mentioned the women's only day spa in Lakewood. On May 10th at the Tacoma Evangelical Reformed Church, Joseph Backholm, chair of the Just One Privacy campaign, said about the women only day spa, Eric and I are going naked to the Lakewood Spa, and we are going to tell the ladies, if they don't think you should be here, you need to sign our petition. I would characterize that either a pledge by a cisgender male identified person to use harassment and intimidation to control women, or it's a joke about harassment and intimidation of women. How would any of you characterize those comments?
Somebody who obviously goes about the same thing.
You want to know what I would do?
Please.
Okay. I don't like the term cis, okay, that's some invention from something. Some man said, we are going to do this, and he walked into where I was, and he did not identify, he identified as he, as opposed to something else. Yeah. I'd kick his ass.
Okay, we can't all do that.
He's the chair for the Just Want Privacy, though.
I'll address that. Because I was there when it happened.
Okay.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, and I looked at my buddy who I was working with and thought, oh, that was a bad joke. But everybody in the room got that it was a tongue-in-cheek reference to the current law in Washington State. And my question for you is, you have all this outrage that somebody could possibly suggest that a man follow a woman into her bathroom, because that is such a violation of women, when the reality is that the current law in Washington State allows that. Where is the outrage over that? Where is the outrage over the actual law that where it is obvious that one person in a bad joke saying this is preposterous, isn't this absolutely ludicrous that this could happen? He's making a tongue-in-cheek reference that everybody knew that was a joke. It was a bad one. It wasn't good. Okay, it was not a good joke. But you're upset with him for violating women when women right now are being violated because we have no choice and no voice. And every single man who wants to go in and harm women can now. Because guess what? When I was asking how this is going to unveil at the Y, I said, when am I allowed to name my harm now? Because before, as a survivor, I could go ahead and I could say, hey, my red flag is up because there's somebody who appears to be a male in my locker room. But I can't do that anymore because I can get sued. So at what point am I allowed to say something? Is it when he starts undressing? Well, no, because obviously trans people need to be undressing too.
What about
and I asked specifically, it's my mic now. I asked, what if he has an erection in the shower next to me? Is that when I'm allowed to name my harm? Do you know what I was told? I was told, no, because sometimes the warm water can do that.
Are you looking at the shower?
So, yeah, because open showers. Have you gone to one? There's one right next to you. So basically, I'm not allowed to say anything, even if there's somebody who is in a state of arousal next to me in the shower. What statement does that make to women?
I'm a woman.
That is not okay. It's just not. And I'm not going to put up with it. Milwaukee's not going to put up with it. Florida's not going to put up with it. LA's not going to put up with it. We're not going to. That's not acceptable. We have to do better than that. We have to have it.
I'm really sorry about what happened here. Lesbian, trans, that doesn't mean that everything bad happens in the shower.
Yeah.
I was saying that it doesn't mean everything bad happens in the park.
We have one final speaker who's going to bring us home. One final speaker who has paid a great deal to be here today. Sam,
I'm a veteran. I'm in
it's not, you know what, right now, I'm going to let Sam speak. Because Sam has been waiting to speak for over a year, but it has been very dangerous for her to do so. She can't even take her college courses on campus because of the violence that she has experienced because of her position on this issue. But she's here. And I am honored that she is willing to be brave enough, because it is not easy to stand up here.
Oh, hi. Okay, so I'm not going to stand with my mic here. And I know a lot of you might be angry at what I have to say, and I want to, request that you let me say it. I'm very happy to answer comments or questions you have after, but I need to get this out, and I'm nervous to do that. So, okay, so I want to begin by saying I'm so honored to be in the room with all of these women, because I know how much they've given up to be honest and to speak out. When I'm sitting here in this chair and seeing women my age speak like this to other women because of their political opinions, it hurts me, but I'm also really hopeful because I used to be you. I used to be you, screaming trans women are women, and how dare you, and you trans misogynist, and saying all of these things. I tried to get a woman fired because I thought she was a trans misogynist. That was several years ago. I was a teenage trans activist, and I was manipulated, and I'm going to talk about how women in trans communities and in queer communities are manipulated by men, whatever they want to call themselves. So, I'm extremely familiar with the type of censorship campaigns and the slander campaigns that women are facing all the time whenever they speak out, and that's because I used to gleefully participate in them. You know, if you told me 3 years ago that I was going to be here critiquing the trans movement from a feminist perspective, I would have laughed in your face, and I would have, you know, if I actually believed you, I would have been terrified because I knew what happens to women who speak out. After all, I loudly, tirelessly campaigned in support of men's access to women's spaces as part of a transgender rights organization. I did this for years, in fact. I met with leaders of transgender politics, including Janet Mock, Joss Truitt, who's an editor of Feministing, which is a feminist magazine, Toby Hillmeyer, who is a Washington resident. He is a trans woman who supports. I'm going to say what I want to say. I believe there's power in naming, and I'm not going to call a man a woman because a man tells me wrong. So I met with Toby Hillmeyer, as a Washington resident who also makes pornography, including, I know him personally too, I met him. He created a strategy for our transgender rights organization. I know what pronouns he goes by.
Don't even answer them.
I don't care. Okay, so I also met with members of the Sylvia Rivera Law Project. I could go on and on, but I want you to know that I'm telling the truth. I was a diehard trans activist, okay? This is my girlfriend, she's here. I was convinced I was doing the right thing. I was terribly wrong. In reality, I was doing men's dirty work for them, though I didn't know it at the time. The campaign I helped lead destroyed a woman's space. I look at that every day. Because of my actions, women will be denied a safe space. But I'm here today because I am a woman-born woman who knows that these men who want access to our spaces are not and will never be women. I'm here because I'm a lesbian, the daughter of lesbians, a feminist, a leftist, and because I changed my mind. So, to the women in this room who are having doubts about transgender, it may even be the most vocal women in the room because that's who I was. I want you to know that I see you. You are not a bigot, you're not hysterical, you're not on the wrong side of history, and you are far from alone. It's never too late to ask questions, to do your own research. It's out there. Grapple with multiple viewpoints and decide for yourself. It's never too late to speak out for women's rights and female safety. It's never too late to admit that you were really wrong. I'm going to spend the rest of my time examining a really important aspect of this, which is how women who are convinced they are trans men are manipulated and used as rhetorical devices in this men's rights activism. So I'll be reading an abridged statement from Max Robinson. Max Robinson is a 20-year-old lesbian who recently detransitioned after 4 years of hormone replacement therapy. She underwent a double mastectomy at age 17, performed by plastic surgeon Curtis Crane in San Francisco. In her spare time, Max currently helps support other detransitioning women. You can read Max's memoir in full at fourthwavenow.com. Her writing will also be featured later this year in the upcoming Female Erasure Anthology edited by Ruth Barrett. If you're interested in these topics and learning more, even if you wildly disagree with me, I would encourage you to get that book and read it, because there's it's an anthology of works from women of all different types of circumstances and all different viewpoints explaining why the transgender movement is a war on women. As detailed in Max's account, the violence and manipulation many females face in queer communities is not widely known or reported in the media, but it's also what the women I know experienced. So it's really, in many ways, the story of lesbians of my generation. This is her story. When I I was 16, I talked to my older sister into ordering me a binder, and I wore it as often as I could. It hurt like hell. I insisted it didn't. The pain made it easier to think less, which was nice. After school, I read online articles and dozens of pages into the archive of FTM blogs. I was glad to see some women who looked kind of like me, saying they had futures now. I wanted what they had, and I hated what I had. At first, I thought I might be genderqueer. Then I wanted to go on testosterone for a while, but keep my breasts. Next, I was sure I wanted them gone. Some part of me knew I was talking myself into it. I ignored that part. It was just so comforting to think that I was born wrong. If my body was a problem, I could be solved. I thought I was turning away from the hurt that came from being seen as a woman by men, but it was too late. After transition, I kept quieter than ever before. Always afraid, brought back in line. Transition was supposed to fix things. That's what I believed, and that's what doctors told my parents. I was 16 when I started hormone blockers. Testosterone. I was 17 when I had a double mastectomy. After all, this was a medically validated condition. I had been to appointments with professional after professional, all of whom agreed this was the way to go. But it turned out to be cold comfort, removing hated body parts. The day of my surgery, I asked Dr. Crane where the tissue would go. He told me it would be incinerated as medical waste. My first post-op memories don't start until a day or two later. I didn't want to be seen as a woman, as a lesbian, and I didn't want to ask why. Or maybe I just didn't know who to ask. I did try. Before I started medical transition, I asked my gender therapist, who was also a trans man, about internalized misogyny. The question was dismissed. I was assured that it probably wasn't that. I got a letter for hormone replacement therapy and later for top surgery. I was grateful. I didn't know it was okay to be a lesbian with what we call gender dysphoria, that I could survive this way. I was almost 20 when I stopped hormones. A while later, I stopped understanding myself as a trans man. Things changed. My mind changed. I had thought woman was wrong for me because of how I dressed, how I related to my body, how I resented the expectations society had for me as a woman. I didn't realize that my horror at my body could be caused by the horror of living in a world that wants to control women. I didn't know this then. I had subscribed to an incredibly misogynistic set of beliefs for years. Defab privilege was a common phrase in our community. Designated female at birth privilege. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that. It was a conceptual fact that being born female gave you a lifelong advantage over a male who transitioned. This included men who used transition only to mean using different pronouns on their online profiles. We believed that as defabs or females, we needed to shut up about our petty problems. We genuinely believed some off-the-wall garbage, like that it's wrong and evil to not be attracted to penises. Google the cotton ceiling if you don't believe me. At the time, none of this seemed outrageous or strange to me. It felt pretty intuitive. Growing up under male domination is a grooming process that leaves many girls and women extremely vulnerable to manipulation. For those of us females, mainly lesbians, who did seek transition, we were told that as trans men, we were exactly as dangerous and privileged as any other men. Women who never transitioned in these trans circles believed their so-called cis privilege rendered them manlike in their power. Young lesbians in the queer community are known by many names. If you want to avoid scrutiny for not hooking up with trans women, you've got to get creative. Some of us call ourselves queer, bisexual, or pansexual because there's no word for only being attracted to females. And you're not allowed to be or call yourself a lesbian if you date trans men or if you avoid dating trans women. A lot of us, having been told that we can opt out of womanhood by choice, decided that we never wanted to be called she again. Many trans women seem to view dating a real lesbian, or what they call cisbians, because they want to redefine us, as a uniquely valuable source of gender validation. Often they refer to themselves as trans dykes. Toby Hillmeyer does that as well. This This includes those who are not transitioning, men who can literally only be differentiated from any other man when you ask his preferred pronouns, and if he feels like it, he tells you he's a woman. The first experience that did make me start to feel suspicious of male transition was when I was 18 and a gender-identifying man who had never pursued any type of medical transition raped my best friend. To avoid accountability within our social circle, her rapist changed his pronouns to female ones, she, her, and then said that he couldn't have possibly raped her because of the power dynamics between a cis woman and a trans woman. He moved back to LA a few months later without ever taking any steps to transition. When he got there, he told his old friends he wasn't a trans woman anymore. Now, I have a list of 20 inter-community predators, mainly trans women who prey on females, women, and trans men. 11 of them are 1 or 2 degrees of separation from us. When our remaining friends from the transgender community found out that we had changed our minds, all of them deserted us immediately. So many women in our community had themselves been pressured to share nude photos, or coerced into unwanted sex, or outrightly, violently assaulted by men describing themselves as trans women. Driving us apart from each other is the easiest way to keep us from learning to recognize attempts to redefine our own realities. As soon as the trans woman said, "No, I'm not a man," we instantly lost our ability to protect ourselves from him. The silent victims of trans women had good reason to keep quiet. We all saw trans women using their language of cis-sexism and trans misogyny against anyone who named their behavior as harmful. Deprogramming took almost before. It took us a while before any of us could call a trans woman a man without having a panic attack. Both of us were terrified just to read dissenting opinions. Janice Ringland's discussion of transsexually constructed lesbian feminists and the transsexual empire was startlingly relevant. She saw this coming. All either of us knew about Janice Ringland until last year was that she was supposedly evil to the core, a horrible transphobe. We believed this because we didn't know any better. From the outside now, I can finally see how ridiculous it is. We had been manipulated into believing that dissenting women are literally equivalent to murderers, and I'm sure some of you think that. At the end of the day, I just don't want anyone male in the bathroom with me. The experience of being male is fundamentally different, fundamentally different from the experience of being female. Even if a man passes, even if a man has surgery to more closely resemble his idea of a woman. I don't say this out of hatred for trans women. I say this out of love and respect for women. What we are cannot be conceived nor replicated in any man's imagination, and it absolutely cannot be formed out of male tissue on an operating table. I am so tired of seeing pictures of women with mastectomies, women who've been on hormones for years, women you can mistake for men, being used to say that of course we should all get to use whatever bathroom we feel like. I had a mastectomy. I don't shave my facial hair. I'm still a woman. I look this way because of socially sanctioned medical abuse designed to elicit compliance from me as an abused bush lesbian with disabilities who did not know how to assimilate into the world before me. Every woman who seeks drastic medical treatment to somehow correct her femaleness has a lot of very compelling reasons for believing that was her best option at the time. The women with beards and flat chests putting up pictures of themselves saying, "You want me in there with your daughter?" Yes, women with a history of medical transition may need to communicate a little more clearly about our past, because not everyone understands yet that this is something that happens to non-conforming women now. But fuck the idea that men on hormones like the ones who sexually abused my girlfriend are more entitled to female spaces than women who are visually identifiable as victims of the medical industrial complex, the male-run medical industrial complex. I feel that transition is a treatment with far-reaching harmful side effects, not only for the individuals receiving treatment, but for those around them. Lesbians who see their sisters disappearing are more likely to try to erase themselves. Lesbians who are forced to welcome men into their spaces will never be able to see or understand the value of female-only space, never having actually experienced it. Gender identity crises are very real to the individuals experiencing them, myself included. But this energetic drive towards change is not best spent reforming ourselves into people who can assimilate into the world men have built. I have so much empathy for other women who believe transition was their best choice. I have lived that. But the fact is, loving a woman does not automatically mean agreeing with her. I deserve that all of us, I believe that all of us deserve better. I'm grateful that I learned it was okay to exist as I am. My body has no tragedies, but my body is not a tragedy. I'm grateful for all of the incredible women I've connected with who are on the other side of transgender identities now. Transition doesn't have to be forever. More and more of us are waking up, each with her own story. We question and we disagree with people who think of us as enemies and with each other. We learn. Together we are moving forward. I just want to say that if anyone wants to talk to me about this or wants to get in touch with women who are detransitioning, there are many supports that we're creating ourselves now to help, and so I'm here to talk. And I can also take questions.
If you can look at the background, the University of Washington Tacoma campus has indicated that we do not have any more time in this space. So it took a lot of time. It's doing questions throughout. So you have questions, but we cannot stay in this space because it's now our time is up because it took a long time to get through these speakers. So, this is what I'm just going to say. Absolutely email questions that listen.
This is what was going to happen.
Excuse me, just a second. This whole time, we're going to have I'm sorry, we are done with this space.
This space is fine, but you need to let us talk.
Can I just say this? I want to say what she just said is exactly right. And what has been so frustrating is no one will talk. And so, let's continue the discussion, not here, and maybe not today. These women are being interviewed up in Seattle right now, and we have to go. This is the extent of our space. Continue dialogue. I will have coffee with anyone who wants to continue this discussion. So meet me outside there. I would love to have coffee. Okay? And can we just proceed as we end right now? I want to give a huge thank you, first of all, to UWT. Thank you. This is the first dialogue that has happened. It's not going to be the last. It is the beginning. I want to thank our incredible, brave heroes. We need to go forward not seeing each other as other. So, go forward in peace with each other, and let's continue the conversation. Thank you. Meet me out there, and we'll make arrangements.